Hey, welcome back to the Ruckus Feature Explainer series. I'm Terry Henry. Today we're going to look at a Web GUI refresh that happened in the Ruckus ICX 9.0.00. So this is brand new code, and I would not recommend running it in production until we get to 9.0.10. Or later. However, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you this new GUI, and it's a vast improvement over what we had previous, which looked like it was straight out of the 80s. So um, the the Web GUI is enabled by default. It's HTTP by default, not HTTPS. So you can change that in the command line if you wish to. But for now, we're going to go to HTTP, type in the IP address, which in my case is 192.168.1.35, and we're greeted with this screen here. So the default username and password is super and sp-admin unless you've logged into the switch previously, and then it's whatever you've changed that to. So we log in, we see a brand new modern looking dashboard. Actually, it looks somewhat like Smart Zone from here, but we can see the name of the switch if you've given it one. We can see switch information, what model it is, it's MAC, it's serial, it's IP, its firmware version that it's running, which is 9.0.0 as I said, and its gateway IP if it's running router code. You can see the switch ports here, and so you can see that the green is 1 gig. If there was other multi-gig ports, etc., they'd be different colors potentially. PoE detected is the lightning bolt here. So it doesn't mean PoE is enabled. It means there's actually a PoE power drawing device on there. The gray is port down, and the plain green is up, but there's no PoE. If there was a red circle around the outside, it would be disabled. So administratively disabled, that is. But we can see my 3 modules, so port 1 to 12 on this 12 port switch. There's module 2, which is 1 and 2 copper, and then module 3, which is 1 and 2 SFP or SFP plus, depending on your license. We can hit this chassis button here, turn it around, and see the back. So in my case, I only have 1 power supply. So this red circle means it's not present, but there actually is only 1. There's no fans in the 12 port, so if there was fans, we would see the status of each of the fans, and then we see the temperature. So it's running 83 degrees C at the moment, and you can have a warning or a shutdown, orange or red, depending on the current temperature. We see the port distribution, so 2 up, 14 down, 0 disabled. So as you hover over, it's going to change those. PoE utilization, we have 124 watts possible, and you'll see that we're using 15.4 at the moment. So you'll see that change as we go. And then CPU utilization, so there's 5 second, 60 second, 300 second. And you might, when you first log in, you may need a refresh because it's not really running 44. It was just running 44 when I logged in at the beginning here. And then memory utilization. So our memory is not upgradable in the Ruckus ICXs. So it's not usually an issue what the memory is running at unless you're running large routing tables or something like that. Okay, the other things we can see here is we can see this is actually reload or reboot the device. That symbol we normally use in Smart Zone for refresh, but just be forewarned that is actually reboot, and it will give you an option. Save. This is a write memory. If I click on the disk there, so it'll do a write memory to the switch. So easy as that. We can apply changes if we've made any. This is the CLI. So if I click this, it's going to ask me for the username and password, which is usually the same as what you logged into the GUI with, and it's going to pop me up a command line session down here in the bottom. It takes a minute to establish that session, so just have a little bit of patience, but it will come up if I wait a second. There we go. So I am now I'm now in the CLI. Maybe not the greatest format, but and then this is your user profile, who you are, and then you can log out from there. So beyond that, we have stacking. So I don't have a stack. I'm a standalone switch, but if I had a stack, it would show you my stack members and the stack ports, whether they're down or disabled or up. It'll show you the unit numbers, its state, priorities, etc. So port settings. So these are all my ports. You can see, port number, port name, administrative status, actual status, port speed and operational speed, whether there's a lag on here, the PoE usage. So I've allocated 15.4, but I'm using 3.5. And then you can actually make changes here. So if we go to actions, then I have the ability to do basic settings. So I can change its name, its speed and duplex, its PoE priority. So lower is better in PoE priority. So they're more important as they go to, down to 2 or 1. I can disable the port. I can disable PoE. And then under advanced settings, I have a few other things. So BPDU guard, DHCP snooping, IP source guard. I could turn on copper auto negotiation control, STP root guard, and RSTP admin edge port. So I can configure all those from there if I wish. So a good blend. We could drop into layer 2 settings, so lags. If you wanted to create a link aggregation group, you could do that here. Just choose the ports you want and create a static or a dynamic lag and a lag ID. VLANs, so it'll show you all the VLANs that are on the switch. So by default, everything is in VLAN 1 on an ICX. But we can very easily create a new VLAN. So let's say I wanted to create a new one. So we'll hit the plus sign, create VLAN ID 10. We will add a couple of tag ports. I can give the VLAN a name, so I don't know, data VLAN. We can also go into advanced settings, set things like IGMP snooping, active or passive, multicast version 2.3, spanning tree, so regular spanning tree or RSTP if I want to turn it on, or none. Spanning tree priority, ARP inspection, DHCP snooping. So you have the ability to do all those. I'm just going to leave it as is and apply that. And so that is now successfully saved. Okay, so I could go back out here, go back to VLAN, and then I could choose, again, 1 or 10. So I can see my VLANs now. So I've created a new VLAN. LDP, so I can see who my LDP neighbors are. So I can see there's a neighbor here, what the name of that neighbor is, its MAC, what port it's on the remote end, etc. Under layer 3, if I wanted to, I could see my routing table. I could create a route. So in this case, there's a static route, which is my default gateway, 192.168.1.1, and its administrative distance. But I could create routes in here as well. So destination IP, next hop, administrative distance. I could create VEs. So if I want to route between VLANs, you can see I have a VE on VLAN 1. It's the IP address of my switch, so I can create a VE in there. A few things under management. So under management, I can do firmware upgrade. So maybe the best part about this new GUI is I can finally upgrade the code just by browsing to an image on my laptop or my local machine and then adding it to primary or secondary and uploading it there. So rather than having to TFTP or put it on a flash drive or SCP, you can just do it locally by browsing to it. You can also back up your running configuration, which just backs up a file. So you see that file just downloaded, easy as that. I could restore it as well. Syslogging. So I can see my log here. I can also add a logging host if I want to send my syslog remote to somewhere else. DNS server, so I can set up my DNS servers should I wish to. Smart Zone is for Smart Zone connectivity. So it is not supported in 9.0.0.0, so it will be supported in 9.0.10. So I know I have one set up, but it is technically not supported in this version of code. But this is how you would add the IP address of your smart zone for management, and polling intervals for many, many different things. So, how often you're going to poll for stacking, temperature, CPU, memory, VLAN list, all that good stuff. And then lastly, under security, I can set up my AAA servers. So I could set up local username and password. So by default, it's super and sp-admin, right? But first time you log in, it's going to force you to change that. But if you wanted to create more local users, you would do that here. AAA servers, if you're using AAA for many different things, for authentication or for 802.1x or whatever the case, you would set that up here. AAA settings. So again, you can set up SSH and Telnet authentication, authorization, accounting. So all the things that would normally go with AAA. And then ACLs. So if you wanted to create an ACL and apply an ACL, you could do that here. So not everything you can do from the command line yet. There will be additional things added, but as you can see, there's the vast majority of things you would want to do are covered in this new GUI, and it's certainly a step forward over what we had previous. So, if you want to go and have a look at the previous GUI, you can load any version prior to 9, and compare the difference. But I think you will see that this is a vast improvement over what we had before. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Take care.